Hello, my name is Rose Tanaye, and I'm a Master of Social Work intern with King's University College. I'll be one of the three speakers for this presentation on stress and effective coping. I would like to take a moment to introduce the two other speakers, Jenna Frobulus, who is also a Master of Social Work intern, and Katie Hart, who is a Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology intern. We have worked together to bring this presentation to you. Stress and effective coping. We'll be discussing what stress is, why it happens, and how to deal with it. We'll discuss how to cope and what self-care is, as well introduce you to some skills you can practice to reduce your stress. Some pieces may be new to you, while some things could be a gentle reminder of past learnings. We'd like to acknowledge that this presentation is based on the original work of Katie Hart, and we have adapted it for our purposes today. We hope you enjoy this presentation. What is stress? So to start, what do you think of when you hear the word stress? What does it mean to you? What is it? What causes it? What is it in yourself that you notice that says, all right, we're feeling stressed right now? Please take a moment now to ponder that. Stress is a normal response the body has to the environment it is in, to situational pressures or demands, especially if they are perceived as threatening or dangerous. It is a natural response the body has that originated with our ancestors when it was necessary to have either fight or flight reactions in dangerous situations. Individuals can also experience reactions of freeze or friend as well, depending on the situation. Fight. To fight is to confront the threat aggressively. This occurs when you feel that you're in danger but that you can overpower the threat. Fight responses can appear as crying, feeling like punching someone or something, having a tight jaw, or feeling intense anger. For an example, yelling at your partner when you don't like something they did is a fight response. Flight. Flight means that your body feels the need to run from the danger. You believe that your best response to overcoming danger is to run away. This includes feeling restless, feeling trapped, needing to constantly move or remove yourself entirely from a situation, avoiding going to a party or leaving early because you don't feel comfortable around unfamiliar people will be a flight response. Freeze. Freezing occurs when you're unable to move or act against the threat. A freeze response could include feeling numbness in your body, feeling stiff or heavy, having a sense of dread, or feeling as if your mind is blank. An example of freezing will be when asked a question by your boss at work and your mind goes completely blank. Friend or phone. This occurs when, in order to find safety or avoid threat, compliance and helpfulness serve as the best option to protect yourself. You might recognize this response when, no matter how poorly someone treats you, you'll become more concerned with making them happy or fulfilling their needs instead of doing what's right for you. This response typically occurs in people who have been in abusive relationships or situations. Stress is a result of brain chemicals called hormones surging through the body. These hormones make people sweat, breathe quicker, tense their muscles, and prepare to take action. When this happens, a person's built-in alarm system, their flight or flight response, becomes activated to protect them. A certain amount of stress is a normal part of daily life. Small doses of stress help people meet deadlines, be prepared for presentations, be productive, and arrive on time for important events. However, long-term stress can become harmful. When stress becomes overwhelming and prolonged, the risk of mental health problems and medical problems increase. Individuals who experience stress for a long period of time and which interferes with their daily functioning, increases the risk of mental health problems such as anxiety and depression, substance use problems, sleep problems, pain, and bodily complaints such as muscle tension. It also increases the risk of medical problems such as headaches, gastrointestinal problems, a weakened immune system, difficulty conceiving, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular disease and stroke. Signs and symptoms. Each individual experiences stress differently and in different situations. Some common signs of stress include sweaty palm, rapid heart rate, feeling anxious and being irritable. Signs can be cognitive, meaning thinking based, physical, emotional, and behavioral in nature, including difficulty concentrating, constant worrying, feeling hopeless or helpless, feeling depressed, stomach problems and headaches, experiencing changes in sleeping and eating habits, and social withdrawal. The severity can range from mild to severe. Cognitive symptoms include difficulty concentrating or thinking, memory problems, negativity or lack of self-confidence, constant worrying, difficulty making decisions. Emotional symptoms include moodiness, low morale, irritability, feeling helpless, feeling apprehensive, anxious, or nervous, feeling depressed, feeling unhappy or guilty, feeling agitated or unable to relax. Physical symptoms include headaches, muscle tension, or other physical pain or discomfort, stomach upset, rapid heart rate, high blood pressure, and fatigue. Behavioral symptoms include changes in eating or sleeping patterns, social withdrawal, nervous habits such as nail biting, teeth grinding, or foot tapping, increased use of caffeine, cigarettes, alcohol, or other drugs, neglect of family or work responsibilities, decline in performance or productivity. I will now turn it over to Jenna to discuss coping and self-care strategies.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenna, and I will start by first discussing how we cope with stress. How do we cope? If this is a natural thing that happens, how do we deal with it? Similar to individuals having different reactions to stress, coping mechanisms are also unique to each individual. Coping strategies are cognitive and behavioral efforts that an individual engages in that allow them to tolerate, escape, or minimize the effects of the stress they experience. A good coping strategy is an act that allows an individual to feel calm and in control. Finding the right coping mechanism may require some trial and error to learn what works best for you, as there is no one solution that fits all. Important tips to remember when experiencing stress are to focus on your personal self-care and to pay attention to your needs. Getting enough sleep, generally about 7 to 8 hours per night or more, and ensuring you stick to a healthy lifestyle of daily exercise, healthy eating, and avoidance of cigarettes, drugs, and alcohol are some great areas to start in. Being able to identify your personal stressors is also a key component to coping with stress. If you are aware that a specific event or situation will cause you stress and you are able to prepare yourself for that experience beforehand, then you will be one step ahead of the stress and will be better prepared to cope with it. Balance is also an important factor in preventing stress and coping with it. Focusing on school, studying, and your work are important, but it also is important to have a balance in your life of fun, friends, family, and relaxation to ensure you have the opportunity to rest and recharge. Take a moment and think about what you think of when you hear self-care. Feel free to pause and reflect. Self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. It can further be defined as the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. We sometimes hear that expressing oneself is an essential form of self-care. This can mean a lot of things. Self-care is what you need to do personally to take care of yourself to protect against adverse effects of stress always, and especially in stressful times of your life. Typically, we think of bubble baths, pedicures, or having a glass of wine when we think of self-care, but it also includes reaching out socially, getting enough sleep, eating healthy, regular good health practices such as physical activity, as well as doing things you enjoy, taking a break and time for yourself, engaging in your faith and spirituality, being creative, playing with a baby, or just being silly. These are just a few examples to show how simple things in our lives can make a big difference. SELF is an acronym used as a memory aid to help remember coping strategies. It stands for sleep, exercise, leisure, and food. This acronym can be useful to help you remember the key components of stress prevention and how to ensure stress does not become overwhelming in your life. I encourage you to use this acronym daily by making sure that you sleep enough, get exercise, make time for relaxation, and eat healthy meals. Now, let's move on and talk about the 4 A's of coping. First, avoid unnecessary stress. This can include saying no to tasks in order to avoid having too much on your plate, limiting time spent with people in your life that cause stress, avoiding events or situations that you know will cause you stress, such as traffic, crowds, and the evening news. Next, alter the situation. When avoiding situations that cause you stress is not possible, change the way you react to the situation. Express your feelings. Try not to keep them bottled up. Compromise if the situation involves others, but be assertive. And lastly, plan ahead and use good time management. Next, adapt to the stressor. Change your expectations and standards for yourself and others. Reframe problems in a positive light. Focus on the big picture rather than small details that may cause you stress. And lastly, try and have a positive perspective on life. Next, accept the things you cannot change. Learn to accept things in your life as they are. You do not and cannot have control over everything, but you can focus on what you do have control of. Learn from your mistakes and learn to let things go. If you're familiar with mindfulness, this slide might be a review for you. However, if you're not familiar with mindfulness or have never tried it before, one of the easiest ways to introduce it into your life is by using deep breathing. But first, what exactly does mindfulness entail? Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not being overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. While mindfulness is something we all naturally possess, it's more readily available to us when we practice on a daily basis. It's key to practice mindfulness without judgment. It is natural that our mind wanders, or that some days might be easier for us to focus than others. Mindfulness is accepting this without judging any thoughts you do have, or without judging your own ability to be mindful. Grounding is a strategy that can be used when practicing mindfulness. Grounding is a particular type of coping strategy that is designed to ground you in. Think of bringing you back down to earth, or calming your mind down when it is rushing with thoughts, or immediately reconnect you with the present moment. Examples of grounding and mindfulness include going outside in nature, finding quiet time for yourself, practicing deep breathing or engaging in a breathing exercise, practicing with a guided meditation, or putting on lotion slowly and focusing on how it feels as you rub it in. Some examples of grounding and mindfulness will be discussed in this slide. First, we will talk about box breathing. Refer to the diagram on the slide of the box with the numbers and the arrows. Try and get yourself seated in an upright and comfortable position. Focusing on your posture will help you to take deeper breaths. Most rooms or places you will find yourself in will likely have something that is shaped as a box. If it is helpful for you, use your eyes to follow along the box as you breathe. Or you can picture a box in your head and use this as a tool. Breathe in for 4 seconds as you follow the first edge of the box. Count slowly in your head and feel the breath fill up your lungs. Hold this breath for another 4 seconds as you follow the next edge of the box. Slowly breathe out for 4 seconds as you follow the third edge of the box. Lastly, hold your breath for another 4 seconds as you follow the last edge of the box. Repeat as many times as needed. This exercise can be done without any sort of visual and can be done just by counting your breath and repeating the process. Another strategy includes simply focusing on your breath. If you think about your breathing, you will notice when you are taking more shallow and rapid breaths and will be better able to correct your breathing. Next, there is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. This can typically be done in any room or place you're in. Try and find 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This can be as simple as a cup of tea. Don't get too stressed out if you can't find exact numbers of things. However, if there's only 1 thing you can hear instead of 3, focus on that and move on to the next one. Next, you can find something that has a texture or that is soothing for you to touch. Whether it is a smooth rock or a soft pillow, focus on how it feels in your hands. The last technique includes focusing on letting your thoughts come and go, acknowledging your thoughts but not mulling over them, and waiting for the next thought to come without reacting. This takes practice, so don't be hard on yourself if you struggle with it at first. Can stress be helpful? How we think about stress matters. Stress is a normal part of our lives and is helpful to us when needing to feel motivated or to have that little extra push to do something. You have most likely experienced the benefits of stress in your own life, such as when you may have had an exam and wanted to get a good grade, or had a deadline for work that must be met. The stress felt by the desire to do well motivated you to study and begin the work needing to be completed. However, if stress is felt at increasingly high levels for prolonged periods of time, it can have adverse effects on the mind and the body for individuals. Research does indicate connections between how we think about stress and its effects on the body and our health. The idea here is that if we perceive or think of stress always as a bad thing, then it will always present itself as a bad thing. If we instead start to think of stress as our body preparing for action, rising to the challenge and alerting us that we care about something rather than as anxiety, the body can actually change the way it responds to stress and view it as helpful, resembling the experience of joy and courage. The takeaway here is to try and appreciate stress instead of avoiding it. I will now turn it over to Katie to discuss further how stress can be helpful in our lives.
Hello everyone, my name is Katie Hart, and I will be discussing the ways in which the stress we feel in our lives can be helpful to us rather than harmful. I will discuss the law of performance and how it relates to the idea of eustress. I will also discuss ways to increase our ability to cope with stress and outline how you can put all of this information together to work for you for your own personal wellness and self-care. To begin, we will look to the Yerkes and Dodson Law of Performance that explains the relationship between arousal, one's stress in someone's life, and one's performance. This was originally developed by psychologists Robert M. Yerkes and John Dillingham Dodson in 1908. The process is illustrated graphically as a bell-shaped curve which depicts the effect of stress on an individual's performance. As stress increases, it begins with too little arousal and low performance, but as stress increases, so does the performance. However, there is a peak that is reached and an individual's performance begins to decrease with higher levels of arousal. The area on the graph labeled eustress is that optimal amount of stress that we can experience that has a positive effect on our performance. This could be considered the extra bit of motivation we experience when we study before an exam. This right amount of stress activates our bodies and increases our focused attention, enables emotional balance and rational thinking. On the outer two sides of the curve, we have distress, where the effect of too little stress gives us impaired attention and boredom on one side, and then too much stress gives us too much excitement and disordered behavior and can look a lot like anxiety. The key here is finding for ourselves that optimal level of stress, as it is different for everyone. Now we will look at the ways in which to increase the likelihood of experiencing eustress, that right amount of stress to feel motivated. The window of tolerance is useful for illustrating our body's ability to manage difficult emotions and events in our lives. Emotions that fall within this window are tolerable and can be managed with existing coping strategies. The idea here is that when we enter our day, there's only so much we can handle, including handling a finite amount of stress. Some days, our window of tolerance, or the amount that we can handle, will be wider or more narrow. This will depend on what is happening in our life and how we feel about it. We discussed earlier the signs we notice in ourselves when we are feeling stressed. These are the signals to be aware of to let you know that you are near the edge of your window of tolerance. When you notice that you are perhaps feeling irritable, fatigued, or a change in your appetite is experienced, that could be a sign that you are going outside of your window. There are things you can do to get back in the window in that moment. These things include some of the strategies Jenna discussed, such as deep breathing and grounding exercises. There are also things we can do on a regular basis as preventative measures that can help to expand our window of tolerance and increase the likelihood of us staying in that window when experiencing stress. This is called self-care. Everyone's self-care will look different because what we experience is individual to ourselves, so the ways in which we self-soothe and decompress will be different and specific to us. Examples of self-care can include taking some quiet time to yourself in your favorite comfortable spot. It can mean going for a walk. It can mean taking a warm bath, and it can include others as well, such as friends and families. The key here is finding what fits you best. Next, we will discuss how you can add to your self-care practice by creating a distress tolerance kit. To begin creating your distress tolerance kit, first take a moment to think of one or two stressors in your life. You can jot down some ideas or think of them in your head. What stresses you out? When considering the stressors in your life, some examples could include school grades, work responsibilities, future academic or life plans, a parental divorce, relationship problems, or disputes with family and friends. Next, jot down ideas of how these stressors make you feel. And lastly, consider the ways you cope with these stressors. What are you already doing when you feel stress coming on? We will now turn to your distress tolerance toolkit building in the next slide, but take as long as you need to reflect on these considerations. On the slide, there is a list of examples of self-care activities. These are things we can engage in that can help to both widen our window of tolerance and assist us to more effectively move back into our window of tolerance when we are feeling distress. Take some time to review the ideas and check off the ones you have tried already in the past and that worked for you, and also think of some you would be willing to try in the future and note those. Jotting this down in your notes or thinking about them in your head, you can consider adding these to your current self-care practices. Lastly, I will finish off with campus support information and community resources for this presentation. Campus support includes the King's Accessibility Counseling and Student Development Department for counseling services that are both personal and career focused, as well as assistance related to accessibility support and learning strategies. Additionally, on campus, we have support from the Academic Dean's Office. You can also access helpful information on the King's Mental Health and Wellness website through the link provided. Supports within the London community include the Good to Talk 24/7 confidential phone line, as well as the Reach Out community support line. Students can access support through the Big White Wall website, as well as the Wellness Together Canada website with the links provided. On behalf of myself, Jenna, and Rose, we hope you enjoyed this presentation and have found this information helpful. Thank you.